You've probably heard of the San Andreas Fault. I mean, it's one of the biggest fault lines in the world. They even made a movie and a video game about it.
To number 9.
But the main reason you've probably heard of it is because it actually resides in California.
Huh?
You've probably even been there without even knowing it.
Stop the cap.
I actually hiked all the way up here. Just look at that. Let's dive right into it. Oh, goodness gracious. Why did I do that? Right. Anyways, it formed around 28 million to 30 million years ago. And it first originated when the North American plate and the Pacific plate met. It is a right lateral strike slip fault, which means when the two plates slid across each other, they created a lot of pressure that separated all the rocks, making what we have known as San Andreas. The entire fault line is around 800 miles long, which is that's pretty long if you ask me. It's also about 10 miles deep, which is also pretty deep. And there's a lot of sharp rocks and valleys. It's also very steep to climb. I had trouble climbing up here because of how steep it is. So it is pretty dangerous to navigate.
Oh, hell.
Believe it or not, the plates are still sliding past each other, meaning that the entire fault is still extending by about 2 inches every single year. The entire fault zone consists of the main fault, which is the San Andreas Fault, and other smaller fault zones. This explains why the San Andreas Fault is one of the biggest fault lines in the world, because there's so many other smaller faults and then the main fault combined with each other. Because the plates are always moving, that means the fault is always active. And with an active fault comes a lot of earthquakes along it. There's a lot of small earthquakes, thousands of them every year. And occasionally there will be really big earthquakes that are devastating. For example, there was the earthquake in 1906 in San Francisco, and there was the one in 1857 at Fort Tejon. Those two earthquakes killed hundreds of people and they destroyed tons of property. And while those earthquakes are relatively rare and happen between many decades, they are still expected to come from a huge and active fault line like this. Overall, the San Andreas Fault has had a lengthy history with its formation, with its structure, and with its earthquakes. I would seriously recommend coming here because it was a fun hike and the scenery is amazing. I mean, just look at that. That's amazing. Thank you.
Bruh.